Lucas hauled his last suitcase up the stairs. The old apartment building groaned around him. Dust motes danced in the weak light filtering through grimy windows. He reached the end of the hallway, his new apartment. He fumbled with the keys, his hand shaking slightly. Moving into a new place was always stressful. He finally wrestled the door open and stepped inside, the weight of unseen eyes heavy on his back. Lucas flicked on the light switch. Nothing. He sighed. Looks like he had some work to do before unpacking. Still, as he walked back towards his own apartment, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching him. The fuse box was a tangled mess of wires. Lucas finally managed to flip the right switch and the apartment hummed to life. Now that the apartment was no longer shrouded in darkness, the feeling of being watched intensified. He needed air. As he walked down the hallway, he found his gaze drawn to the door at the end of the hall. He was close enough now to hear a faint scratching sound coming from behind the door. It was rhythmic, like claws on wood. Lucas felt a chill run down his spine. What could be making that noise? He had to know. Lucas crept closer to the door, each step echoing in the silence of the hallway. The scratching sound grew louder, more insistent. He reached out and hesitantly tried the handle. Locked. He leaned in close to the door, pressing his ear against the cold wood. Lucas stumbled back from the door, his heart pounding in his chest. He pressed himself against the opposite wall, his eyes wide with terror. What was behind that door? Was it human? He knew he should just go back to his apartment, forget he ever saw the door. But the curiosity, the fear, it was a drug. He had to know. He slowly approached the door again, this time more cautiously. He peered through the peephole, expecting to see nothing but darkness. But the darkness held something. Two eyes blinked back at him. They were wide, too wide, and they seemed to glow with an unnatural light. And then a smile spread across the darkness. It was a grotesque, impossible grin that stretched far too wide. Lucas stumbled back from the door, his stomach churning. He turned and ran back to his apartment, the sound of his own footsteps echoing in the empty hallway. He slammed the door shut behind him and fumbled with the lock. He slid the deadbolt home, his breath coming in ragged gasps. Lucas didn't sleep that night. He huddled on his couch, every creak of the building, every groan of the pipes sending shivers down his spine. By morning, he was exhausted, his nerves frayed. He needed to get out of the apartment, get some fresh air. He cautiously approached his own front door, his hand hovering over the handle. He took a deep breath and opened the door. The hallway was empty. He stepped out, closing the door softly behind him. As he turned to walk away, he noticed something strange. There was a faint scratching sound coming from his own apartment door. He froze, his heart skipping a beat. Hesitantly, he approached his door and peered through the peephole. The sight that greeted him sent a wave of terror crashing over him. Looking back at him through the peephole was himself. The doorknob rattled, a low growl emanating from behind the door. Lucas watched in horror as the deadbolt slowly slid open. He was trapped. He could feel an unseen force pulling at him, drawing him towards the open doorway. He tried to scream, but no sound escaped his lips. The smile in the peephole seemed to widen, becoming almost impossibly large. Lucas felt himself being dragged, inch by agonizing inch, towards the open door. He caught a glimpse of darkness beyond, a swirling vortex of shadows and whispers. And then he was gone, pulled through the doorway and into the abyss. The door slammed shut behind him, the sound echoing in the now silent hallway. A few days later, a new tenant moved into the apartment. He was young, fresh-faced, and excited about his new place. He hadn't noticed the door at the end of the hall, the one with no number.